Let's discuss with our guest, CNN senior media correspondent, host of Reliable Sources, Brian Selter, and politics editor for TheRoot.com and professor of political science and journalism at Morgan State University, Jason Johnson. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me. Brian, two big surprises. Obviously, I think we all just, sat back and watched and thought for a long time after we heard what Dave Chappelle said. And we saw, and we'll get to it in a moment, the opening, Kate McKinnon singing Hallelujah. But just your thoughts on Chappelle's story and then saying, I'm going to give this president a chance.
No Alec Baldwin, by the way, on this
Right.
SNL either. This was not a time for jokes. The cast, the crew, the writers of SNL wanted to be very serious on this first episode after Election Day. Partly that's because of the political bent of the writers and the cast members. But partly I think what we were seeing was the role of comedy and the role of art in a Trump administration. Oftentimes, when you have a conservative administration, you see liberal artists step up to the plate and try to be representatives of dissent. I think we started to see that from SNL on Saturday.
Well, Professor, we also saw the opposite of that, right? Chappelle wasn't being funny. He threw a couple of lines in there because he's a comedic genius with Bradley just to keep people from being too uncomfortable. But he wasn't there to be funny, and very often that's a mistake of the comics, right? Is that they make a joke of everything, they mock everything, and sometimes that winds up feeding disaffection. Chappelle seemed to have a very different agenda. Did he hit his mark?
I think he hit his mark. I think that Dave Chappelle made the clear point that, look, Donald Trump is president, we'll see what happens. But Chris, I got to be honest with you. I mean, within 24 hours after Dave Chappelle said, let's give him a chance, Donald Trump says that his senior advisor is going to be, Steve Bannon.
Right.
And so clearly, this idea that, hey, let's give him a chance and we'll make fun of him the way we have previous presidents, that doesn't apply when you put someone in that kind of position who is directly hostile to people of color, who has favored terrorist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, this is Dave Chappelle tried and Donald Trump disappointed everybody.
Well, the tone that he took, Brian, was sort of a conciliatory tone at the end, like, frankly, what we heard from Hillary Clinton and from President Obama, saying, give this president a chance. You wonder, because of the professor's good point, would he have done that had the Bannon announcement come 24 hours prior?
Right.
As you noted at the top, no Alec Baldwin, no impersonation of Trump at all. Why?
I think folks are struggling with what this means to give someone a chance, give a new president a chance. And we saw that from John Oliver also last night. John Oliver saying, what do we do now? Now, he was more vulgar than that. But what you hear are these comedians, these artists, these kind of thought leaders in Hollywood, for lack of a better term, struggling with what to do, what to make of this president. An incredibly unusual situation. And Bannon's the latest example. This is not your ordinary Republican administration. And it seems to me that comedians or writers like everybody else is kind of struggling to do, what do we do with that?
So you've got a new word to deal with in media, normalizing. You had false equivalency, you have false narrative, now you have normalizing.
Right.
And, normalizing obviously means making something seem usual when it is unusual. I think what Chappelle talked on about, and the professor was touching on, is a chance is conditional. As someone who's made a lot of mistakes in their life, when you get another chance, it's because you're promising to do something different or better. Brian, to the professor's point, Trump has not responded to the chance by addressing the people who are angry at him in a meaningful way, by putting people around him who would assuage those fears. Bannon is a dark arts guy. Breitbart is not a normal media outlet. It's not a normal conservative outlet. It's a hateful outlet very often. That's the truth. People won't want to say it because they don't want the scrutiny. But is the chance conditional for Trump? And is he meeting the conditions?
So far, no, not meeting the conditions. You think about the first few days of a president-elect administration. Every day he has opportunities to set the tone and change the tone. I thought it was striking that in the CBS interview, Trump said as of Friday he had not really heard about these incidents of hate and harassment across the country. Now, CBS withheld that clip for 2 days, which is troubling. By the time it aired on Sunday, there have been even more of these incidents.
The man who monitors the media constantly said he hadn't heard of any of these reports.
I have a very hard time with that. I think something I've been wondering all year long, I'm wondering again today, what are Trump's sources of information? That's what a lot of this comes down to. If he's only receiving information from the, let's be honest, Breitbart,
that's why he didn't hear about
it, then yes, he's not going to understand what's going on in the country, how the country's reacting right now.
Jason, to you, about media and what Donald Trump reads or doesn't read, he certainly does not like the New York Times. And after telling 60 Minutes on Friday when they sat down for the interview that he was going to be, quote, restrained when he used social media as president-elect and president. He tweeted 3 negative tweets about the New York Times, including one that said that they're losing thousands of subscribers because of their very poor and highly inaccurate coverage of the, quote, Trump phenomena. How do you square the two, and how does he address the media as president when he has them in his press pool, when he has to answer their questions for the next 4 years at least?
Well, yeah, Poppi, this is problematic on 2 levels. One, he has people in his administration who run fake websites that advocate genocide for people of color and for Jewish people. If Stephen Bannon is in his administration, we know what kind of media he follows. But secondarily, he is attacking and bullying members of the press. Right now, he's talking about the New York Times because he's unhappy. What happens when he comes after an individual anchor? What happens when he tweets a particular reporter?
He's done that. I mean, he's done that. He's called out Katie Tur repeatedly.
So what does it mean when he has the power of the presidency behind him to do it?
Exactly. And his supporters, who he has never demonstrated any propensity to restrain. This is literally a physically dangerous time for people who want to engage in reporting, and a dangerous time for media as well. There has to be a concerted pushback on this kind of behavior on the part of the President of the United States.
But the voters decided that was okay with them. Guys, we're out of time. Thank you very much. What is your take? We want to hear it. Tweet us.